The COVID-19 podcast series on Asake Online. Give us the best COVID-19 podcast series on Asake Online. You are listening to the COVID-19 podcast series brought to you by Asake Online.
Hi, welcome to the COVID-19 podcast series, and I'm your host, Terero Gurure. We are back again with a different perspective on how life is for young people with disabilities and also a woman with disabilities in the leadership space. Thank you, Sugolushe, for making time to be with us.
Okay, thank you, Tari, for having me.
Just tell us briefly who Sugolushe is.
Okay, my name is Sugolushe Mhlanga. A young woman with a disability. My disability type is called cerebral palsy. I'm a disability rights activist. Issues relating to disability and women are just close to my heart.
Okay. And I know that you are a leader at one of the Residents Association that pushes for better service delivery, BPRA. You represent the people with disabilities. How has your journey been?
Yes, true that, what I can say is I'm one person who doesn't let her disability define her. I'm one person who's also very confident. Remember, a disability doesn't mean inability. So yes, true, I represent persons with disability under Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association. The journey has been good. I would like to appreciate BPRA for being so very inclusive in its structures. I'm one person who's trying to discover what I'm good at. I'm one person who's trying to boost her leadership qualities. The position, yes, it's fun. At the same time, educative and...
Okay. We are in the COVID-19 era. Lockdown, the disease, the virus itself, and what's your day-to-day life like from your perspective?
Since the inception of the lockdown, truly speaking, it hasn't been easy. As a person with a disability, as a woman with a disability, not forgetting my colleagues in the disability fraternity, it's very, very saddening. You find that as persons with disabilities, most of us here in Bulawayo, we rely on informal vending. So since the inception of the lockdown, things are becoming so very tight. Remember, we have disabilities, we are independent. So it's very difficult for us to bring food to the table. Then I'm a student at Lubana State University as well. So since the inception of the lockdown, things changed. The online learning, way
You've just brought
I
up
performed at school is deteriorated due to the data issues.
All right, you've brought up a very good perspective on data tariffs.
Yes.
It's a disadvantage. How inclusive has been the educational sector towards people with disabilities? Where it's easier when you're on a one-on-one session, but when it comes to online, you've got data tariffs, sometimes you don't even have that laptop. How have you been balancing all that?
It's a bit hectic. I've been relying on airtime data that is provided by NGOs whose motive is to enhance the livelihoods of persons with disabilities. The data will be reserved for some programs that I meant to participate in as an activist, and I balance with the school data. On the inclusion part, I realized that we have our colleagues with hearing impairments, the deaf community. It hasn't been so inclusive. You find that there are online radio programs for school-going people are introduced, but you find that the deaf community is left out. For a deaf person to learn, there should be a sign language interpreter, whatnot. So
there's a gap.
There's a gap indeed, and you find we have children with psychological disabilities, the Down syndrome. They have been left out as well, so there is a gap indeed.
The COVID-19 podcast series on Asake Online. Give us the best COVID-19 podcast series on Asake Online. You are listening to the COVID-19 podcast series brought to you by Asake Online.
Welcome to the second segment, and we still have Sugoluhle Mhlanga on site Asake Online. Do follow us on our Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, so that you get to listen and catch up on everything that happens and the news that you get on site. But above all, go on Anchor FM, find site.zw.fm, and you listen us from there. You talked about the gap when it comes to education. I want to pose a question to you. How has the government been matching what the NGO sector has been doing towards the livelihoods of people with disabilities?
Allow me to say that all begins with the Constitution. I realize that the Constitution of Zimbabwe is not including us as persons with disabilities. Yes, we appreciate that there are sections that major on persons with disabilities. When it comes to the sections that are there, the government states it clearly that if only resources permit. So, as persons with disabilities, we are being marginalized in terms of our livelihoods. We only rely on the social welfare aspect. So if only the government rephrases its maybe sections when it comes to persons with disabilities, we benefit those who are not disabled, so that we enhance our livelihoods through the government programs.
All right. So the government should improve on the efforts that they are putting out on the Constitution, in the Constitution. Yes. But my worry is, if funds permit, if they don't, will they ever permit?
No.
That's the whole point now. What would you tell someone, a young girl out there who's got a disability, and in this time of so much uncertainty, COVID-19, what would you tell a young woman with a disability out there?
Young women with disabilities, it's all about believing in yourself. It's all about self-love, self-care. It's all about believing in yourself, I emphasize. Confidence. Disability does not mean inability. So take up leadership positions, speak out on the challenges that you face so that we move together.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being with me, Sugoluhle. Until next time, make sure you do follow us on Twitter and all our social media pages. Thank you.
The COVID-19 podcast series on Asake Online. Give us the best COVID-19 podcast series on Asake Online. You are listening to the COVID-19 podcast series brought to you by Asake Online.